Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Fat Show. So on this week's episode, I just wanted to do a quick weekend review of a Tesla Model 3. And I know there's hundreds of those out there already, but I just wanted to do something a little bit different and just do a completely 100% unbiased review of one of these cars. I think Tesla Model 3, or just Teslas in general, are one of those cars that are, or not really a car, but one of those things in life that are pretty polarizing, where people are either on one side or they're on the other, where they're strictly for them or strictly against them. For me, I think I'm fit right in the middle. I've never really been for or against them. So I think that puts me in a pretty interesting spot where I could give, an actual unbiased review of one of these cars, because I think, like I said, there's two camps to these cars, and I'm not really sure why that is, but I don't know. For myself, I like mechanical, engaging, kind of sporty cars is what I've always liked, particularly small ones. That being said, I do work in the engineering field, and I work in the power generation industry. I actually work in the zero carbon power generation industry, which I think that's one of the reasons these cars are so polarizing, is because you do have the people that are all for them, that say they're saving the world and they are zero emissions, and the people even get the license plates that say zero emissions, which isn't entirely true. I mean, last year I just looked up through the EIA that 60.9% of the U.S. power generation was from fossil fuels. So as long as you have your car plugged in at home or you're charging at a supercharger, you're not actually carbon zero. I mean, I guess there was the chance that you have solar panels installed on your house and you're removed from the grid, and then yes, you are carbon zero. And then to go along with the 60% fossil fuel generation, there is a 5% on average loss through the power generation system. That being said, as an engineer and someone who is interested in technology, I do think that these are a way of the future. And then as our electrical grid becomes more renewable, these cars become more and more effective at serving their purpose of providing that carbon zero transportation. So I think we need to advance on the technology for the time when the grid gets there, not just start developing them when the grid is there. So I do think they have a point or a purpose, and I do think it is the way of the future. It's just up for debate how soon that's going to come. All the car companies are saying by 2030 they're no longer going, I can't remember if they're saying 2030, 2035, but regardless, I think that's a little ambitious, that they won't be selling any internal combustion engine cars. I still think that our infrastructure for these hasn't quite got to that point yet, where we could have only electric. I mean, even this car I picked up yesterday, and I was like driving up to Maine from Boston, and I was like, oh, there's probably a supercharger in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which is kind of the biggest city between Boston and Portland, and of course there wasn't. So it made things kind of interesting, a little bit more difficult plan than I had originally thought of.
To relieve my range anxiety while I was in Maine, I was able to charge via 110 outlet each night, which increased my range by about 40 miles each night, which gave me plenty of range to drive around while I was up there and make it back to Boston.
But that being said, I just want to give my initial quick weekend review of this car. I ended up renting it on Turo. It was just an easy car that was located right at the Boston airport. Touchless delivery, which was quite easy. And then interesting car that was not crazy expensive. It wasn't also super affordable. I definitely could have just ran a car through one of the mainstream car rentals instead of Turo and got a better deal. But that being said, I did want to try the technology, because as they always say, don't knock it until you try it. So I ran the car, and I'd like to say I have been pretty impressed with it so far. Just my initial 10 minutes with the car were quite alarming. The guy that I rented the car from actually told me to look up videos of how to use it, and I was like, I can figure it out, and I did. It wasn't that easy, or it wasn't that hard. When I picked up the car, it was actually on a supercharger doing the touchless delivery, and I was able to stop at supercharging and get in the car, put it in drive without ever watching any videos or reading anything about it. You just have to put your key card down here, and then the key card is actually just the actual key card. Put it down here, put your foot on the brake, and then you're ready to drive, essentially. And then selecting gear just as a gear lever, and yeah, it's pretty easy. And in the first 10 minutes I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I actually thought that I needed to have one, but then the gimmick, or not the gimmick, or whatever, the novelty of it kind of wears off quickly, and I was like, okay, it's just another car, it's a little different, but yeah. So those are the initial impressions, and kind of my long-term impression of the car is just that I think it would make an excellent daily driver car. But I mean, if you like doing road trips, you definitely need another car because I don't think the infrastructure is 100% there yet. And also the like 400 amp superchargers aren't widespread enough to be able to charge quick enough and go everywhere in the country. But if it's just used as a daily driver and just going between city and city, I think you could make it work. And actually, as a daily driver, it's super comfortable. I like these seats. The bolstering is a little bit narrow for my wide back, which is the same problem I have in my Porsche and with a lot of cars that don't have adjustable bolstering. But I always thought that the materials and pictures look kind of cheap in Teslas, just with how bland the interior is. But they're actually quite nice, and the interior does have a cool design with this cool like wood trim it has, and like the whole front of the thing is like a sound bar. The sound and stereo in this is actually amazing too. You have all these surrounds speakers and all. That's why I think for like a daily driver, for just like a comfortable car to get in and just take you from point A to point B in comfort and just coolness, it's pretty awesome. And probably like one of my biggest complaints with kind of having like a mainstream car or whatever for me myself is the lack of manual transmission options, and that's why I've kind of hated some cars I've had in the past. But this with like no gearing, I don't know, I don't find myself hating it or whatever. And also it's kind of weird how you drive this car only with one pedal. It's just not something I'm used to at all. Like the regenerative braking is so strong that it pretty much stops you without ever hitting the brakes. I know that's something you can adjust in these cars. I haven't looked in how to do it. And the acceleration of the electric motor is not as alarming as I thought it would be, as far as what you see in the videos. But this is just a dual motor, so I think it's like a 5.3 0 to 60 time. And I did do a acceleration blast with it yesterday, and it wasn't as crazy as I thought it would be. Yeah, the torque is instant, but it's not as overwhelming as I thought. It would be, or sorry, I think I said the 0-60 was 5.3. I think it's 4.3 in this. But the person who's rented this car has it like programmed to be in the chill acceleration mode, and I can't figure out how to change it, so I don't know if that's locked somehow. But anyways, I'm about to get to a twisty kind of mountain thing here, so we'll try and talk about the performance of it, which actually I have been kind of impressed with overall. It does low center of gravity. It does actually handle much better than I thought it would, and the steering feel is actually really good. And it's in the comfort mode right now, and it is super heavy. It like almost feels like BMW power steering. So it's actually been a much better handling car than I thought. Acceleration wasn't as crazy as I thought it was, but this is just like the middle of the road Model 3 with the dual motor. So it's not the crazy performance one or whatever. But that being said, it definitely is fun to drive on a twisty road. So yeah, I feel like the car overall is like it would be an amazing car if it was $25,000 to $30,000, like an entry level daily driver luxury car. But for the price that it is, I don't know. I don't think it's entirely worth it itself. Maybe when they come down in price, it would be for me. But for the $40,000+ they are, it's not really for me. And that was the other thing I was kind of upset with when I looked up last night. I looked up online just like what the base Model 3 price was, because if I was going to get one, that was the one I would get. Just the rear drive, none of the driver's assistant, just as cheap and basic daily driver as you could do. And it said like $31,000 on the Tesla website. I'm like, wow, like that actually seems like almost a good deal for me, because I said 25 to 30, so it was like 1,000 more. Like, hey, maybe I could do that. But then I started looking at it, and the $31,000 doesn't include the $31,000 is just the price with all the incentives put in it. Which the incentives they put in it are the tax credits for potential tax credits, which depending on where you live, you may or may not get. Like online, I have the California tax credit in that online price. I don't live in California. I'm not going to get that tax credit. They also have the potential fuel savings in the price of like $4,000 something. So the real price of the like cheapest one you can possibly get is $38,000, not 31, whatever it was. So that was kind of lame. I was a little upset. But I mean, I'm on this super twisty mountain road right now, and I mean, overall, it's been a really fun car to experience and rent for the weekend. It's also like pretty good looking car too, in my opinion. I really love this red color, although after looking on the website, I learned that the red color is a $2,000 option. But yeah, that's a dual motor one. I did get stuck in a little snow squall yesterday, which there's pretty much zero accumulation. The road got a little wet, never slipped. So I guess if you live in a cold climate, you could make one of these work. Well, it's been kind of surprising up here in Maine, where you kind of expect people to have these. I haven't seen another one on the road. So yeah, I think that's all the stuff I really want to talk about. So guys, this has been my review of the Tesla Model 3. So once again, I originally tried to do the intro to this video outside, and it was way too windy that it probably sounded like crap. And I parked the car on top of this, small mountain or hill here where you can oversee the ocean, and then also this sweet Saab 9.5 Aero wagon like I used to have. But of course it's way too windy outside again, so I guess I'm stuck to inside the car. But that was my just quick initial 2 days with a Tesla Model 3 review. So overall impressions are, the car is super cool, super different. Definitely understand why people like them, and I think they're best served for just like daily driving, commuting, which is what people use them for. But for me, I think it's kind of too much money for that right now for me, because it's kind of like an entry-level small luxury car. So for the high 40s, I think you can do better and have it be more affordable too, and probably never recoup the cost in electricity savings. And right now you're not saving the planet as much as some people might make them out to be, but I do think that will change eventually, and I understand why people buy them, and I think they need to develop the technology for when it does become mainstream, which will happen. So I hope you guys like this video, and I know this was a little different than I usually have on my channel, but like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching. Bye.